Cyril Ferrand. He is the East Africa Resilience Team Leader at the FAO, and he joins us from Nairobi. Mr. Ferrand, good evening. Thank you for being with us. Desert locusts are a part of life in Eastern Africa and the Middle East. There are millions of them in the area each year. But what's causing this exceptional upsurge this winter?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, as you rightly said, desert locust is known in the Arabic Peninsula and part of northern Africa. The exceptional climatic conditions have been really at the source of the current situation. We had extremely wet conditions and then number of typhoons that came in December and then created extremely favorable conditions for desert locusts to come towards Ethiopia, Somalia, and then Kenya now. As a matter of fact, we are still having rains in Kenya, which is very unusual for this time of the year, and all of this create these very favorable conditions.
Mr. Ferrand, the situation has been going on for several weeks. We've mentioned it already several times here on Eye on Africa, even since November in some parts of the continent. Several countries have announced measures, including spraying chemicals, but it appears it's getting worse with this new report and these new figures released by the FAO. Why is that?
Well, again, as I said, I mean, the reality is that this favorable condition have brought a massive amount of locusts towards the region. At this time of the year, normally the locusts should have returned back to much drier and cooler areas such as the Arabic Peninsula, and then they arrived. I mean, in a moment where we had extremely favorable rains and extended period for farming and cropping. And of course, they were able to find a lot of food in the entire region, starting with grazing areas of pastoral communities in particular, and then cropping areas now. Yeah.
There are many shocking statistics when it comes to desert locusts, but one of them is the fact that desert locusts can eat their own weight in food every single day. Do we have an idea of how much crop and vegetation is currently being lost in Eastern Africa, and whether it could pose a threat to food security in the coming weeks and months?
Okay, yeah, it's a good question. That's a question we are frequently asked at the moment. When locusts arrived in southern Somalia and entered into northern Kenya around 28th of December for Kenya, they found a situation where basically crops were reaching already a very advanced and mature stage. This means concretely that they are normally eating on the leaves and not on the cobs of maize, for example. So the damage on crop is estimated for now for the harvest that was just finished in December. The impact on the crop harvest is limited. That's our current estimate, but we are conducting a number of rapid assessments in order to gauge really the extent to which the crop have been affected. What we do know is that on grazing area, it's a bit more severe. We are not able to quantify for now. We have team deployed in all over the region with together with the government, because the government, of course, frontliner in addressing the issue of desert locusts. So we are working side by side with them in order to understand what is the magnitude. Our biggest fear is obviously for the next season. The next season in this region will be in April with the next round of rains, and that will be coinciding with a time where the new generation of locusts will be in the region and will obviously find a lot to eat when farmers will start to plant. So the damage on the past crop is not that big for the moment, but we are really fearing for the season ahead of us.
Okay, certainly a critical few weeks coming up in Eastern Africa. Cyril Ferrand, the East African Resilience Team Leader at the FAO, thank you for joining us from Nairobi tonight.